Most people struggle with procrastination, and that becomes the primary obstacle to success for the majority of people. You lack discipline. In this video, I'm going to share strategies that will help you stay productive 90% of your day. This video will also help if you struggle with procrastination or motivation in general. Here are some of my absolute best tips to stay extremely productive. And we're going to break them down one by one. So we have the pillars of physical health, we have purpose and drive, we have taming your dopamine levels, we have the essential morning routine, the power of your environment, removing the distractions, and then the last thing is we will talk about deep work. If you apply some of these lifestyle habits, I guarantee that you are going to see some increase in productivity in your own life. Every single day is different, but the general foundation of every day must be the same. So let's break down the pillars of health, and this is broken down into 3 subcategories. So you have sleep, which is the most important. You have food and diet, which is the second most important. And then you have the third, which is like exercising and avoiding substances that slow you down. Let's talk about sleep. Sleep is the fundamental building block to your health. If you do not get enough sleep and you're doing everything else, you're going to crash and burn. And so you need to figure out exactly how much sleep you need in your life. Most humans need between 6 and 8 hours, and effectively you need to sleep that much every single night. But more importantly, you need to sleep in a proper environment. So going to bed at relatively the same time, give or take a couple hours, is really important. Sleeping in a very dark room is very important. A room that is around 70 degrees temperature is preferable. And also you need to stay away from food and drinks before you go to bed. And then on top of that, you want to stay away from any artificial light. You need to consider to use candles in your room. Try to keep as many lights off as possible, because candlelight doesn't keep you up the same way that artificial light does. And that helps you fall asleep more naturally and get a better night's sleep. The next thing is the quality of food, and this one is pretty simple. You want to just eat whole foods, foods that are not processed, foods that have one ingredients, like eggs, meats, vegetables, chicken, beef, like all that stuff. After you apply to eat healthier in your lifestyle, you will notice that once you get used to it, you will actually feel much better. Your energy will be more consistent throughout the entire day. You will be able to much more productive and make way more decisions before you get burnt out every single day. You'll be able to sleep better, exercise better, become stronger, think faster, and will easily remember all things. If you go like travel, for example, you start eating processed foods for a couple of weeks, and you'll notice how sluggish you are. It's like flogging your brain, and you immediately notice the effects. It's like it really is that drastic. If you smoke or drink a lot, or do like smoke nicotine a lot, I would recommend just trying to get rid of all those as well. Weed is not going to make you more productive. No matter what you say, alcohol is terrible for you, and it's bad for your brain. It damages your brain, it damages your organs, and it slows you down. It's literally poison. So you probably need to get rid of that if you're trying to be productive as possible. Next, we have purpose and drive. If you want to be productive, you need to have a clear goal in mind. You need to answer the question, why am I trying to be productive? If you're being hard on yourself and wondering, why can't I work? Why can't I be productive? Why can't I start a Shopify store or do whatever the case is? If you ask yourself why you can't do it, you need to ask yourself, why are you trying to do it? You need to identify a purpose or a goal that you're going for. And in my opinion, the goal needs to be something a little bit more than just like, I want to buy a Lamborghini. It needs to mean something to you. And the more that it means to you, the more drive, the more motivation you're going to have. Everyone wants to be wealthy, but you need to have a clear idea of where you are going. If you don't know where you're going, how can you possibly expect to get to that goal? Do you expect it to just happen randomly? You need to know exactly where you're going if you want to get there before you die. I know that I have big goals. I know where I want to go. I know exactly what my life should look like in the next 10 years, and it requires me to have a lot of money. That's why I'm working so hard right now. But the point of all that is that I know what I want. A lot of people are very, very addicted to dopamine, and we get so much of it, way more than we have ever gotten before. Our tolerance to it is much higher. We're used to it, and so if we do not get it, we seek it out much faster and in much greater amounts. Therefore, when we do boring things that don't offer us as much dopamine, such as reading a book, cleaning, or working on a business, it's very, very hard. Because it doesn't offer the same amount of dopamine as sitting down and going through TikTok, which offers a load of dopamine and is very easy to do. You have both of these combined. It's very easy to just fall into that trap, or playing video games, and you get way more dopamine. You need to identify the areas of your life where you're getting the unhealthy dopamine. A very good examples will be like video games, eating a lot of sugary foods and drinks like sodas and sugary stuff all the time. Pornography and social media is like absolutely terrible. Of course, pornography is one of the worst ones. You want to slowly turn down the dial on how much you consume of these things. Most of you probably have heard of like the dopamine detox, which is like where you pick 3 days and you just remove all of it all at once for 3 days. But my preference would be to just turn it down and get used to it. Build a habit of living life with these dials turned down lower and lower. If you do it this way, you have more control over it, and it will be much easier over time. This leads perfectly into the next one, which is the essential routine. People say you need to take cold showers, meditate, read every morning to become a millionaire. Obviously, none of that's true. But it is true that having a routine greatly increases your productivity and your workflow. Because you can't just be doing random things every single day and expect to like move and make a lot of decisions and progress every single day. For the most part, I think that it's best to just have like a block by block schedule. Yes, the sentence is relevant and understandable. However, to make it sound a bit more natural in English, you might consider a slight adjustment. For example, I don't like to work as soon as I wake up. I take about 10 to 20 minutes to plan my priorities for the day, and then I pray in my room, or just like go outside and read a little bit. Then after that, like once I'm alert and turned on, I can work for about 3 to 5 hours. After that, I exercise for just 1 hour, take a shower, and have my first meal of the day. That's kind of how it works, and my brain gets used to it, and it becomes easy to work. One last thing I want to mention about having routine and why it's important is because eventually, if you do these things long enough, they become a habit. If you dedicate a couple of hours to work every morning and then engage in a daily exercise routine for 30 days in a row, you make it a habit, and that's kind of how you have to do this. You can't rely on motivation. Motivation will eventually run out, but you have to rely on habits and discipline. Now, the next thing I have is the power of environment. This one is significantly less important than all the other ones. But if you're doing everything else right, then this could be something to help boost you as well. If you could switch up your environment, that's really good. And a second side to this coin is you don't want to be around negative people. You don't want to be around noise, because if you get focused, you don't want to be distracted. So let's say you live with your parents and you're not able to like move out and have a really cool inspiration. Just go to like a free place like a library is a great place I used to work. Coffee shops are obviously free to go and you can go to all those places, but just like any spot, you can go to restaurants, you can go to a bunch of different spots. The next thing I'm going to talk about, removing the distraction. We live in the age of information. Thousands of blogs and articles are produced every single day, and over 500 hours are uploaded to YouTube each minute. But even though knowledge is more abundant than ever, people are finding it harder to learn or accomplish anything, because more information comes with more distraction. But there is a skill we can train that allows us to take advantage of the information ocean without getting consumed. The first thing I want to mention is your phone. It would be best to keep your phone in a separate room if you're trying to get like 3 to 5 hours of work. The best way to do it is you need to keep your phone in the room on do not disturb mode so you wouldn't get any notifications, and then you'll have dedicated time to work. Checking your phone only after finishing your tasks, you can kind of block it off. That's a really effective way to go about it. Not getting distracted is incredibly difficult. I always delete all my social media apps during the week, and then I do calendar blocks for big tasks that I'm procrastinating with. I make sure that I have enough time for it. The last thing is I am going to talk about deep work. We're in the midst of a digital renaissance where anyone has the potential to make a lasting impact. Brilliant ideas are being produced and shared all across the internet. But if we're chronically distracted, the ideas are meaningless if we can't act on. In order to take advantage of the digital renaissance, we must possess two qualities: the ability to quickly acquire skills and quickly produce quality. Work more skills that are toolbox, the more creatively we can solve problems. And if the way we do that is quick and of high quality, we'll truly separate ourselves from the pack. Those who can deliver the most value are awarded. Accordingly, in the digital economy, sounds easy in theory, but in practice it requires tremendous effort to build skills. Acquiring skills alone is not enough. Doesn't matter how good we are at programming or sales if you don't use it. Because if we can't concentrate or focus, that knowledge is meaningless. This is why deep work is so powerful. Every top student or successful entrepreneur can tap into the scale of deep work. To accomplish more in less time, deep work is a super skill. It's something that once we train, we have seemingly improve every area of our life. There are 4 rules for deep work, but I would simplify it to 3. Number 1, focus on only one task at a time and do it for as long as possible. For most people, multitasking is the worst thing you can do for productivity. We think that multitasking means we can simultaneously work on 2 things at 50% capacity. But as you've probably attempted yourself, this is not true, because everything we work on has an activation energy. It takes time to get into the mindset, warm up and get into flow. When we switch between tasks, we pause the previous task and have to get over another activation hub. But once we return to the previous task, it's not like a video game, where we can just unpause and keep going where we were. We have to reorient ourselves, overcome the activation energy again and get into the mindset and headspace where we left off. And as you can imagine, the more tasks we switch between, the more our focus is dispersed. We end up wasting all of our energy and time, overcoming these activation humps that we never focus long enough to produce quality work. That's the reality of task switching. The quality of all tasks suffered along with our productivity. The best way to focus on single tasking is to incorporate time pressure. A lot of people love using Pomodoro, blocking out 25 to 50 minutes devoted to only one task, and then taking 5-minute break and then repeating that process. Pomodoro is cool if you're new to deep work. It's a great starting point, but as I trained and improved the skill of deep work, I realized several limitations. Now I can easily work for longer than 25 or even 50 minutes, so I don't need to take a break as often. I actually prefer not to prevent having to overcome that activation energy again. For rule number 2 is to tolerate boredom. Our mind is like a bratty child. When it feels bored, it throws a tantrum and does anything it can to escape that feeling, which is why when boredom strikes, we automatically grab our phone or daydream a complaint and let the entire world know. But unfortunately, that inner brat in all of us is just getting worse. Because of the explosion of instant gratification at our fingertips, it's a lot more difficult to find enjoyment doing simple things that objectively are incredibly satisfying. Like, when was the last time you had a meal by yourself without watching Netflix or TikTok? When was the last time you went to the bathroom without your phone? Embracing boredom means we have to stop reaching for quick dopamine. If you can quit social media altogether, more power to you. Personally, I don't think quitting is necessary. I think it's better to redefine a relationship with social media and set stronger boundaries. We have to treat our mind the same way a parent with their fussy child. We need to resist giving in to the impulses and demands of our mind, and over time our mind will realize that we aren't messing around, and it'll fall in line, raise the bar for tolerating boredom. At first it'll be tough, but once we're at a new baseline, it will just feel normal, and then we can keep pushing that bar until we're in complete control. Rule number 3 is drain the shallows. We should eliminate all the menial work errands or side projects we use to productively procrastinate with, because our mind is also very clever. If throwing a tantrum doesn't work, it'll try a ninja to choose to move. To avoid the team's work by convincing us to engage in shallow work. You know, I can't even count how many times I've thought. One of the most powerful strategies I've implemented to overcome the productive procrastination trap is to prioritize and plan before I begin my day. It's not sexy at all. It really is as simple as planning. The idea of searching for an easier alternative is your mind trying to convince you to productively procrastinate. It's trying to play you to not focus on building your business or studying. Because first you need to clean your desk and read 5 more books to learn more about it. Draining the shallows comes down to planning out ahead of time. What are the most important things to work on that will move me towards my goals? I've found it's important for me to prioritize and plan the night before when I'm detached from my work, because my judgment will be clouded by negative emotions that I might feel while I'm working. Right? It's so much more helpful to go into deep work with priorities, intentions planned out than it is to come up with them on the spot. So that's how to be 90% productive in your day. By following these methods, you will transform the way you approach your daily life into a more productive one. Set your goals, find ways to achieve them, and enjoy the process. Once you've done all of that, it's just a matter of time until you reach your goals. Start with what you have right now, not when everything is perfect. Because if you wait for perfection, you'll never start. The perfect time is right now. So close this app and simply do what you need to do. See you on the next videos.